So normally, medical billing is almost like scanning groceries, right? Like a broken arm gets a code and the insurer pays a set rate.
Right. It's usually pretty straightforward.
Yeah, but today we are looking at a pretty wild stack of sources.
Oh, yeah. We've got everything from DOJ fraud reports to commercial insurance coverage policies.
Exactly. And it really shows how cutting-edge treatments, like genetic testing and longevity medicine, are turning that simple transaction into just a total regulatory minefield.
It really is a minefield.
So if you're listening to this, you are likely a medical biller in the trenches of the healthcare industry. And today's deep dive is basically your survival guide.
Yeah, our mission is to decode all the compliance, coding, and coverage chaos behind these trends.
Right, helping you navigate the evolving front lines. So let's just jump right in. We are seeing this huge divide right now between true longevity medicine and, biohacking.
Oh, absolutely.
To my mind, biohacking is kind of like doing a DIY home renovation without any permits, whereas true longevity medicine is more like hiring a data-driven structural engineer.
That is a great way to put it, actually. I mean, the data totally backs that up. True longevity medicine relies on tracking biological age and very precise biomarkers to build a systemic health profile.
Right, instead of just rogue self-experimentation.
Exactly. And the law is finally catching up to that difference. Like in California, they have cracked down incredibly hard on NAD plus IV therapies.
Really? Why NAD plus specifically?
Well, because an IV actually pierces the skin, California classifies administering it as the practice of medicine, so clinics now have to operate under a medical corporation structure.
Oh, wow. So they can't just operate like a casual wellness spa.
No, not at all. They need direct physician supervision, and they have to follow strict sterile compounding rules.
Which basically means the IV bags have to be mixed in hyper-clean environments so you prevent bacterial contamination?
Yeah, exactly.
And honestly, that puts the medical biller in a really tough spot. Because NAD plus IVs, they don't have FDA approval for anti-aging, right?
Right. They aren't covered by insurance at all.
So if a patient just assumes their insurance covers it and the biller doesn't clearly communicate up front that this is purely cash pay, out-of-pocket patient responsibility, well, the clinic is going to face massive disputes and chargebacks.
Yeah, that cash pay dynamic is a huge headache for patient relations, certainly. But when we pivot over to Medicare, the threat profile completely flips.
Right. Instead of just cash pay confusion, we are seeing an explosion of active aggressive fraud, specifically around cancer genomic or CGX testing.
It is wild. The Department of Justice recently prosecuted a $2.1 billion fraud scheme in this exact space.
2.1 billion?
Huh.
With a B? I
Yeah.
mean, how does a scheme that massive even operate?
Well, so telemedicine companies partnered with these really aggressive telemarketers to target elderly patients. They'd convinced them they absolutely needed these complex genetic cancer screens.
That's awful.
And then they paid illegal kickbacks to doctors to just rubber stamp the prescriptions. The doctors never even spoke to the patients.
Wait, really? They didn't consult with them at all?
Not even once. And then the clinics upcoded the tests. So they would take a basic single gene screening and bill Medicare using codes meant for highly complex multi-gene panel sequences.
Wow, just artificially inflating their reimbursement by thousands of dollars per test. So, okay, with telemedicine booming the way it is, how does a biller spot the red flags of a referral or telemarketing scheme before their practice gets audited?
It's tricky.
Because, you're staring at a screen all day, you're not seeing the patient.
Right. So you really have to scrutinize the paper trail for clinical utility. Like, are tests coming in with blanket standing orders, but without any individualized patient assessments?
Okay, so you're looking for clinical notes detailing why this specific patient needs this exact test to guide their immediate treatment.
Exactly. Because if that documentation is missing, the claim is totally toxic.
Okay, so to combat this exact kind of fraud, payers are just throwing up massive medical necessity walls, right? We see insurers outright denying tests by labeling them experimental or just hiding behind policy exclusions.
Yeah, take Capital Blue Cross, for example. Their rules state that covering the off-label use of a drug requires backing from recognized compendia, like Micromedics.
Which is essentially just a massive database of peer-reviewed drug data.
Exactly.
But wait, I have to push back here. If the FDA has already approved a drug, and a doctor decides it's medically necessary for an aging patient, isn't it so frustrating that an insurer gets to just outright deny it just because their preferred compendia hasn't caught up to the latest clinical research?
Well, insurers aren't really playing doctor, though. They are managing actuarial risk at scale. I mean, they just can't fund every off-label experiment a physician wants to try without bankrupting the whole risk pool.
Okay, fair point.
And to track the actual quality and clinical validity of these molecular diagnostics, payers now require DXC codes.
Right, so think of the Palmetto GBA registry, which is the database behind these codes, as almost a VIP list for genetic tests.
Yeah, that's a perfect analogy. If a lab hasn't proven its test's validity to get a unique 5-character alphanumeric DEX code on that list, the biller's claim just gets bounced right at the door.
And here is where it gets really interesting. Billers need to be hyper-aware that DXZ codes are completely different from standard ICD-10Z codes.
Oh, absolutely.
Because ICD-10Z codes just categorize reasons for healthcare encounters, like, a routine checkup. But a DXZ code tracks the specific genetic test, the lab performing it, and its proven clinical value.
Right, they serve totally different functions.
So what does this all mean for you listening? As a medical biller, you aren't just doing data entry. You really are the ultimate gatekeeper of compliance, standing between your clinic's revenue and federal fraud charges.
Definitely. And, the genetic data you code also carries immense weight for the patient's future. The U.S. relies on the 2008 Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act, or GINA, to stop health insurers from denying coverage based on genetic markers.
But GINA actually leaves some massive gaps.
It really does. A patient might discover a genetic marker for Alzheimer's only to have their life or disability or long-term care insurance legally denied years later based on that exact same data.
Wow. And unlike peer countries like the UK or Australia that use voluntary coverage moratoriums to protect patients taking these tests, our system just leaves them exposed.
Yeah, it's a huge loophole.
Which really leaves us with a wild thought to ponder. As AI begins merging with consumer DNA testing, and with GINA's existing loopholes, will medical billers soon have to submit codes for predictive algorithmic risks rather than actual manifested diseases?
Oh, wow. That is a terrifying thought.
Right. If that day comes, the regulatory minefield we just talked about is going to look like a walk in the park.